Kyle, I wanted to talk about this concept of going from nothing to something. You started your work on the internet, then Workaholics became a great success on Comedy Central. So internally, what was that experience like for you?
It was very weird. Surreal, but it was like a dream coming true. My friends and I were making web content online on the weekends, and then all of a sudden, somebody from Comedy Central, they liked it, thought we were doing something special. We made the pilot. It was super low budget, but I called in all my favors, anybody I knew that could work a light or
So give me a sense
camera.
of what super low budget would be.
Well, it was actually high budget at the time. So let's say
it's all relative.
Let me say this, it's all relative. I mean, they gave us $50,000.
So that must have seemed like an amazing amount of money.
At the time,
right.
I was like, you only want us to shoot one pilot? I'll shoot 2 shows. I'll shoot a season.
Right.
I've been working, I pay people in pizza right now. So you're giving me an opportunity to pay people in money?
Like real cash? Like
Yeah.
something I could actually like.
So at the time it was
about?
it was gigantic, and they actually wanted us to shoot just like 12 minutes of what the show could be, and I was like, I could do a whole show. So let's just do a whole show and show them what an episode would be.
So that's interesting. You actually took their instructions and you went and created something that you felt would be more appropriate.
Yeah,
So you took that leap.
exactly. Yeah,
Great.
we felt that it was a stronger move to show them what an episode would feel like, so they could be like, oh, what's the next one on the DVD, you know? So they would have that feeling after they watch it, you know, like, oh, that was great, let's watch the next one.
Did that create any kind of anxiety for you, taking something, let's say a certain amount of instruction, and then going and say, we're going to actually do what we want to do and see how they react to it?
The other producers on the show, like the guys who had been in Hollywood for a long time, and like my management company / production company, they kind of were the ones that pushed me back. They were like, what are you doing? Why are you going to go above and beyond on this? All we have to do is 12 minutes. Let's do 12 minutes and then give it to them. And I'm like, you're insane.
So you followed your vision.
Yeah, right. And then because we did that one, then they ordered 10, and we did a season. They liked it, and then they ordered another 10 for season 2, then they ordered 20 for season 3, and then they ordered 13, and then we got to do another 13. So we'll be done with 66 episodes.
Was there ever a moment in that process where you felt like you made it, like now we're established and I'm not going to have to do other jobs?
So season 1, we had the opportunity to make the show, and we went out and scouted locations to try and be proper, and then we decided, no, let's just shoot it at our house.
Okay.
So we shot it at our house because we were afraid that we weren't going to do season 2, and they were paying the rent. So, so yeah, we were afraid the whole season, after season 1 was done and all that, we're like, oh, well, at least we got our rent paid. That's great, you know?
So it's all relative as far as where you think you made it, that I'm paying my rent, so I must have a certain amount of success.
Yeah, there's got to be something going on, for sure.
So
yeah.
even if I don't really know what's going on, they're getting it, and maybe I'm fooling them and
yeah,
having this great experience doing it.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, maybe they're dumb enough to think what I do is cool, you know?
A lot of us go through these interesting journeys to get to our careers. We go from nothing to something. You've had a fascinating journey going from makeup to being a top female video music director. Can you give me a sense of what that experience was like for you?
Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty wild ride. I mean, I knew I always wanted to do directing and editing and just, you know, being on that side of everything. But I mean, everybody has a different path for what they do, whether they're directing, singing, production designing, shooting. Everybody has their own path and what works for them. You know, I had a great internship after film school. I worked with director Floria Sigismondi. Then from there, I started to work as a PA on commercials and music videos, and it just was not for me. And makeup was something that I always really liked doing, even as like a kid and through high school. I'd always do, you know, prom makeup for all my friends, and I had a lot of fun doing it.
So there was something about the makeup, being a makeup artist, that connected to you internally.
Totally.
In a deep way.
It was creative, and it wasn't like being a PA on set to where you don't really have chances to talk to other people in a creative manner, like a makeup artist would. They get to interact with the director and just kind of, they get to see the treatment. You know, they get to see some of the creative points that a PA wouldn't.
So you're very much a visual artist when you're a creative artist. So
Yeah.
it makes sense to me that you could go from that to directing music videos.
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
a different expression of that same
and
talent.
it gave me like a background as a director too, just to be like, I can talk about certain points that some directors couldn't.
And what was that
important.
experience as a female? Did that relate a lot to your sense of why you were successful? Because I would think that you bring a certain aesthetic or a certain voice or a certain vision that maybe they're not used to hearing. So you walk in, you bring it, and they go, oh, that's kind of interesting. It's something we haven't seen.
It's really interesting being a female director in this like hip hop world, because I'm the first female director to work with these specific group of guys. So I definitely feel like I walk in with a different perspective than what these guys have seen before. Like, I make these things called style guides, which this is something that I don't think many people do, but it's just a bunch of visual references that I pull that I feel like fit the video's vibe and tone overall. So it's like styling, makeup and hair references, nail references, and that is just part of the picture. It's not like the whole picture, but it's part of the picture that I bring to the table that I definitely draw from like having a makeup artist background and styling, eye.
So you were able to use your background as a way to inspire you. So you took it all with you.
Yeah.
Don't you think that's a big part of being successful, is that you take all your life experiences and bring them forward, and it gives you a strong point of view?
Yeah, growing up, I was on a lot of teams, whether it was sports. I was on a drill team in high school. I played the drums my whole life. So I was always a part of something that, a bigger piece,
Right.
And so, I mean, I learned a lot about teamwork, the role you play in each thing. And yeah, bringing it back to, how you take something with you is, editing music videos, which I do a lot of, and having that like rhythmic background, I'm able to just hear things differently.
So that's what I've understood,
Yeah.
is that success for a lot of people is taking their whole life experience, as I said, and bringing it forward. You're having great success in your career as someone who's gone from nothing to something, as a producer, as an actor. You're producing feature documentaries. What was the experience like coming from Brazil, landing in Hollywood, all this stuff thrown at you?
All the accessibility, at a very young age. It was overwhelming. It wasn't very well thought out. I had a really vague idea of what I wanted to do.
So overwhelming in what respect?
Plans started, I got here in 99. My plans to get here started in 98. I started having conversations with my mom. Listen, I'm in film school here in Brazil. There's no films happening in Brazil. I want to,
Difficult.
now there is. At the time, there was nothing. So I was like, I want to go to LA where things happen, So I came here, but it was a very vague thing. Let's go to Hollywood, okay? I didn't even know any English. So I went to a university first, taking English courses. And while on campus over there, with nobody watching, parents at 6,000 miles away. Anybody I know is 6,000 miles,
How old are you at this
Reach 20.
Okay, so you're 6,000 miles away.
6,000 miles away at a campus, at a university. And things got quickly crazy and wild and fast. And getting here at 20 and then really not having anything that I needed to do but focus on learning English, and the best way I figured was to talk, and the best way to talk was to always be up into what was happening at the university, parties and so on.
Okay, so what happened?
And then homesickness kicks in, not having the plan. That's what I'm talking about. I came here, everything was too vague. Like, looking back now, I didn't have a clear picture of what I want in my life to be here.
So without that vision, without that sense of what you were trying to accomplish, everything became interesting and almost a distraction.
There's no drive.
There's no drive except, well, this looks good, I'll try this, and that looks good, I'll try that. So what exactly did you try?
Well, I'll say it. My family don't see it this way. I was already like a born alcoholic when I got here. 12 years old is when I started. I never stopped. So that, to having access then to basically a 24/7, I'll be the only guy that you could see at every party at the university. I was there.
Now, how did you discover that you were a born alcoholic? Where did that insight come from?
Well, then, right? Sure. Because I guess when you put that label, right? I don't think people fully understand that. Like, what is an alcoholic? It has nothing to do with alcohol. Now being sober and clean and having a path and a purpose in life and being happy and fulfilled.
And children and a wife,
Exactly,
etc.
fulfilled by my home life, my children, my work, my creativity. You realize there's this, at least for me, there's a lot of self-destruction, self-deceit, because you don't want to look at the truth of facing, right? What you're facing right now, which is, dude, this is gonna get you nowhere. Tomorrow you're gonna wake up and rinse and repeat and do it again, and what? And a lot of this obsessive compulsive thing that I have, then now I get to channel into creating stuff. At the time, that was only left to, the only thing that the obsessive compulsion was getting me was like, let's do it until the very end. Right? And that's what I did for the first 25 years of my life.
So what
It's
changed?
wasted.
What changed? Well, I don't agree with you. I don't think it's wasted at all. I think that you probably took a lot of those experiences, someone who's sober, and probably took the good stuff out of it and brought it to this life, to sort of your sober
sure,
life.
for sure.
So I
Yes,
don't
yes.
see it as a waste.
You know, after I graduated, I watched a lot of my class just kind of give up and say, I've had enough of this. I'm going home and I'm going to become a security guard, or I'm going to get a day job, and that's what's going to happen. And I'm sure they all still have a passion for film, because you can't pull that out. But when I saw all my buddies like leaving this town, I had the thought of like, oh, I should leave too. I'll go home and do construction with my dad.
So
you
why
know?
didn't you?
What I told myself was, if I left Hollywood on a Monday and went back up to Concord and, you know, started doing construction, the irony of my life is that on Tuesday or Wednesday, I would have been in a position down here that would have changed my life. So I couldn't let myself leave, because I was afraid that if I left, my dream would come true and I would have just missed it, you know?
How would you have felt leaving the guys that you worked with behind, had you left? Because
I couldn't have done that.
couldn't
There's
have
no
done
way.
that, no. So you felt
I got 3 actor and writers,
Right. So
you
that
know?
was a sense of responsibility. You would
Yeah.
abandon them.
Yeah, I'm the director, I'm the, you know, the editor. I write with them, I produce with them, and I get all the pieces together. So if I would have left them, then I would have left us, and then we never would have had this.
Right.
And you know, that's kind of, that's, I'm glad I didn't, but it made it easy because I was like with my friends.
So they
And it's
had-
like, oh, these are my friends. I'm not gonna leave my friends. Also, I don't wanna leave my friends. What am I gonna do, go up there and have no friends? No, I'll stay down here and have friends and work with them.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So there was a sense of this responsibility and caring for your friends that also kept you in the game.
Yeah, I mean, one of the guys that I still do Workaholics with, Blake, I've known Blake since I was in 3rd grade.
Okay.
That's
So you have
how
a history with him.
That's how long that creative relationship goes back. We were drawing comic books in 3rd grade, and now we're
So don't you
making
think
TV
that's
shows
the big
together.
source of people being successful, is that they create that world for them, and they create those relationships, and those relationships take them through the difficult times, but also the great creative times. It becomes great fun, and it becomes scary at the same time.
It's all about relationships.
I agree.
That's you have to be good at maintaining your relationship. Nobody,
So that would be some of the best advice if someone was just coming to this field or wanting to stay in it.
yeah,
Okay.
that's the whole thing. Like, it's easy to sit in middle of America and watch the credits and see this big title at the end that says directed by, and you're like, he made that film, or she made that film. But really,
We all made that.
I mean, come on now. Look at the rest of the people. You know, that person is very skilled at relationships with the rest of the people on that list.
So it's a community.
It
More
is.
than
It's
anything,
a
creating
family.
Community, a family. And I
It's
think family is the most important thing.
Yeah.
I made it very difficult, nearly impossible.
But somehow you persevered. Do you have a sense of what it was inside of you that allowed you to persevere? Because a lot of people get back on that plane and then they go back to wherever they came from. But somehow you didn't. So something was going on for you.
It's just like dumb insistence, man. It's just,
Just like
you know, even it's like you're punching the wall and it's bleeding, but you just keep on. For just let me try just one more year, because I had a lot of these once things started very slowly, once I got my first acting gig back in 2006, I thought, oh my God,
Someone's actually going to pay me for this.
this is going to
Yeah.
change to more, but also very naive and again, the whole thing with not a plan, right? Now, what do you do with that? You just got a part, you paid into the union, which is another thing that you can't really get into.
Right. That's the whole LA experience in a nutshell, isn't it?
Catch-22. Okay, you're in now. What's next? Like, do you know what to do with this? And I didn't.
Okay.
Fear of success, even more so than fear of failure, I think.
In what respect for you?
Because I had a lot, I mean, not a lot, again, small town. When I first said that the things that I wanted to do made no sense to my friends, made some sense to my mom. When I had a conversation with my mom, like, Mom, I think next year I want to do this, go to Hollywood. She even wrote me like a beautiful letter at the time, like I sort of knew this day was gonna come, you know. But at the same time, I was like, my family were supportive in a beautiful, loving way, but also in a way that didn't help guide. Like what I was saying, I was in a pretty destructive mode when I left there. And that's the arch, that's the beautiful, strange thing about life. It's like you never know why things are happening when they are happening. And sometimes you arrive at some landing spots that say, aha.
That's what that was all
Yeah,
about.
and to me, it's that, seriously. I couldn't screw it up in a better way to enable me with tools to now parent and guide these kids. Because my middle child, my 3-year-old, my mom sees it, she's like, it's this, he doesn't look exactly like you, but it's the spitting soul of Neto.
I think by parenting your son, you're also going to learn a lot about yourself and your own process and what you did and get a deeper understanding of yourself. You know,
Already, yeah.
I know. You know what I think is so important to remember is that so many times people, as you say, screw things up at an early age in very big ways, but you're alive. Some people end up not. And it's as though they've done everything they're not supposed to do, and now they got it. So they can move forward and do everything they have. But if you hadn't done that before, you'd never probably be the success you are right now. You'd be doing it as an adult.
Right.
You'd be doing it in your 30s and 40s, where sometimes it's harder to clean up the mess.
A lot of my job, and I really wish I would have told, I wish like 10 years ago self would have known this, is writing. All I do is write. It's constant, like trying to think of ideas and writing them in a way where people understand and like can see how I'm seeing it in my head. So I get really caught up with if I'm writing for an artist that I love. For example, I wrote on a Paramore track, and Paramore is one of my favorite bands, and for the life of me, I couldn't think of anything to write. And I was just like totally stuck. But for somebody like, let's see, like
Do you have a sense how you got through that place of being really stuck? Creatively, like how you got your way past it?
I think that's one of the hardest parts about my job is just constantly trying to stay creative and staying inspired.
And sometimes when we have a lot of history with things, we build them up and then we get very anxious in those moments.
Yeah, for real.
One of the things is a lot of people, the music business has changed dramatically, and sometimes people can't change with the change. A lot of people have to move as the business changes and as technology changes, and they have a difficult time doing that. If you were giving advice to someone who wanted to stay successful in their career, what would you give them as far as being pliable and flexible with how the music business is changing?
Yeah, that's a great question because especially music videos, it's changing so fast. Like budgets are dropping, even just from last year. It's really scary, but I mean, we all love what we do, so I mean, we hope we do.
Right.
So we kind of need to adapt. So I really think that if you're able to adapt with the times and kind of like stay on the pulse in terms of like what the technology is and where they're showing videos and how they're showing videos and product integrations, and a lot of it is really trial and error as well. But I think definitely being able to adapt to the changing times and the budgets dropping and staying creative and staying inspired. And I think to do that, you just need to be constantly experiencing new things in order to just stay inspired. And if you're hungry and you have that drive, then you're going to be successful and you're going to work.
And wouldn't you also say, to add to that, the sense of having people around you that you love to work with?
Oh,
to
totally.
Keep you inspired, keep you creative, that you're working with like-minded people is a big part of it too.
That to an extent. I mean, it's obviously an important aspect to be surrounding yourself with people who are successful and positive, but at the same time, it's specifically for what I do, it's so competitive. So if I'm hanging out with a bunch of directors, yeah, we're all creative people, but it's not going to be a positive experience most likely. It's, I mean, I'm working through that. That's like a personal thing, but like it's so
tell
competitive.
me a little bit about that personal thing. What's it like? So you talked about some projects that you're doing right now. How have you brought that sense of yourself into these projects? And what are they?
There's one particular that's a lot of people like don't equate me and the project when I talk about it. The project is called Mother, and the idea is we're interviewing and going into the lives of these two-mother household, obviously.
Is that a
lesbian
same-sex
couples,
couple?
same-sex
Okay.
couples,
Okay.
right? Two moms. And then going into the dynamics of the mom, the gestating mom, the mom that actually, birthed out the child and lived with the child for 9 months and is her genetic material now walking and talking, versus the other mom that technically has the exact same psychological and physiological nurturing qualities of the other one and calls the children my kids and them mom, but is there a difference? So this is an idea that just came to me one day.
Sounds like a psychological study. I'm
Yeah,
really
it is a psychological
interested
study. Yeah, as far as the feelings and the stuff and everything that goes with the raising and rearing of a child is there. The love, the respect, the getting mad and having the same frustrations that I go through.
So it sounds like what you're saying is the emotional connection is what's the most important. The empathy for the kid.
Yes.
We pick projects, we pick things in our life that sometimes consciously we don't know what we're doing. But as you've gone through this process, is there something in your past, it may not look the same exactly on paper, but unconsciously, that reminds you of this experience, that this was an important thing for you to discover about yourself?
I mean, very much so, yes. The guy called Dad, he's not my biological father. He is the biological father of my brother and my sister. And looking back, there's never been a difference in the way he raised me in the way he raised me or treat me, or I've been as much his son as my siblings have. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure that construct, right, the psychological proximity and love and sharing this life that I've shared with this person who by all standards is only the father of these other two kids, right? Mm-hmm. But has never shown any glimmer of difference towards me.
So it sounds like what you discovered or are discovering through this process in your own life, that this guy who raised you loved you tremendously in the same way that these mothers love their kid.
Yeah, for sure.
That's an amazing experience, and I know it's going to take you really far creatively. I mean, to take that experience and then bring it into other things, to know that you were really loved.
Yeah, I mean, I hadn't thought it that way.
But to have that courage to be able to open up in that respect like you are is really tremendous. I'm curious, there's a lot of people that get a certain amount of success, and when they're about to achieve that success or when they've already achieved it, they seem to self-destruct in the process.
Yeah, sure.
I was curious that you must have had this experience, too much drugs, whatever.
Yeah.
What your thoughts are.
Oh, I think it's because it's scary. I think that's why that happens. Because when you're in the position of, I'm not in the position of being like, my face is the star necessarily. You know what I mean? My buddies are more famous than I am, but it's been really crazy the past 5 years.
It has its own kind of stresses. People think that when you become a celebrity, that you've had it made and everything's magically goes away.
Now you have this stress to perform. Now you have this stress to be the funny guy all the time. And or be the rock star all the time, or be, you know,
So this persona that you have
this
to be all the
persona,
time.
yeah. And once people expect that from you, it's hard to turn it off. And sometimes people need drugs to keep it going. You know,
I agree, because they get lost and they can't find that authentic self that they started with originally. They get lost in the persona. So when you have that emotional experience and you realize that it's very creative, I mean very competitive.
Very
excuse me,
competitive, yeah.
and very hard to stay creative.
Yeah.
How does that affect you as an artist?
Oh
or
my
as
God.
a human being?
Yeah, I mean,
Can you tell me a little more?
yeah, totally. I mean, when I'm really stressed out and thinking about the competition aspect of it all, I just go completely blank. I can't be creative in that mindset. And so, honestly, it's like just a lot of just kind of like talking it out and just like, you know, it's not, everybody's not out to get me. You know what I mean? I felt that a lot too. Like, I'm not booking this video. They hate me. You know, I took it very personally. And especially when an artist doesn't come back, if they like do a video and they go to somebody else after. But I mean, I don't know, I'm still figuring it out. It's really
we spend
tough.
Our lifetime
Yeah.
figuring it out. But you know, one of the things I sometimes say to myself that works is, at least for me, when I do that self-talk, is I'm having a number 10 experience to a number 5 event. So in other words, this isn't the crisis I think it is.
Yeah.
And but I know it's tapping into something much deeper.
Yeah,
inside of
everything's a
myself.
10 for me. I'm always just always like way up there. The industry is big, but in the grand scheme of things, it's such a small bubble. But I need to remember that it's like a bigger world.
Take that deep breath.
Yeah.
You know, like, oh, it's a bigger world.
Yeah, because it's tough. I mean, a lot of, like my production company that I'm with called London Alley, we're like a tight knit family, and so, you know, and you want to like be like tight with everybody in the family, the other directors included. We always call each other like they're my brothers, you know, and so it's, yeah, you just gotta like let go of the competition and just know that we're all just after the same thing, and be happy for everybody. Be happy for everybody's successes, and you're just gonna be a happier person.
I would agree with you, because when you get to those points, you go, that stuff I can't control.
Yeah.
The competition, I don't know what's going to happen. It's out of my area of, you know, there's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah.
But I can stay in my own creative process.
Exactly.
And that's what will help the most deal with
Yeah,
those issues.
because you're not going to be creative when you're worried about if the other person's going to book the job.
Yeah.
Like and it's weird that we're talking about this so much, but so
No, I
much
don't
of
think- no,
what
this
I
is-
do, I mean, I wasn't expecting to talk about this so much, but so much of what I do is like the competition aspect of like, is that person going to book it? And then what am I doing wrong? And what is their, you know, but that's just me. Not all directors are like that.
But you
I'm
know
just a
what,
little
I think,
crazy.
I think that most people go through that.
Yeah.
They judge themselves and they hear those voices going. I find that what works well is that you're not necessarily going to stop those voices. You just don't pay attention to them.
Yeah.
You know,
Or
I went-
change the voices. Just
that
make
takes
them,
time
yeah.
sometimes.
Oh, it totally does.
'Cause I think this was wonderful insight that you brought, that the concept of staying true to oneself,
Yeah.
how you deal with competition, how you deal with those difficult times, how you stay inspired. So I want to thank you very much for coming in.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
I want to thank you very much for coming on the show.
yeah, no problem.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.